I did
hangout
the
is
sketches.
live.
Did you or did you not create them?
I did not do the sculpting on them. What I did was that was Frank Ippolito and his crew. What I did was do the concept sketches that were given over to Blizzard for approval. So you could, what they were going to look like, what they were going to wear, how the actual suit would work. It was pretty cool. And then the best part, though, was that there was like a little sound chip in it that makes the Murloc sound, which was great.
I love the Murloc sound.
What if they just had a very dry, hacky voice?
Hi,
Yeah.
Like in reality.
I'm a Murloc.
That's what a real Murloc sounds like. Breathing in all that
Hey,
swamp
hey.
water every day. What do you
Hey.
expect it to sound like?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, it was cool to actually see it come to life because I had done a couple different drawings.
I wish I would have seen them in person. And I was
Me
there
too.
so briefly.
Yeah, me too. I would love to have seen them. They were just kind of walking around. A lot of people thought that they were just fans who were dressed up
Oh, yeah.
as Murlocs.
That's how
but-
good cosplayers are these days.
Yeah, well, apparently a lot of these effects companies are being asked to create things that are cosplay friendly for that very reason, so that they can see their brand out there at the, at the
It's almost
shows.
like going into building a character for an entertainment medium. You have to have cosplay in mind, similar to
Yes.
how
Yeah.
Disney has to think about the potential ride before they make the movie.
Right, right. Which
If you were
explains
starting over
why.
today, Darren, Mr. Pineapple would be like your first
Oh,
point of
jeez.
order.
I'd love to be able to do that. I'll create Mr. Pineapple for you, Darren.
You should
Oh,
have
thank you.
Mr.
Really
What
missing that.
you know what a Dole Whip is, right, Darren?
I know. Oh, I know what I am a fan of the Magic Kingdom. Let me tell you, I can't not go to the tiki room. And have a Dole Whip.
You just make a Mr. Pineapple, but it's all like that's a Dole Whip inside. You pop the top off.
It's funny that you should mention that the original Wi-Fi pineapple came in a plastic pineapple case with the antenna sticking out the straw hole.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hence the name.
Hence actually Jim Louderback named the Wi-Fi pineapple, but that's after show material.
Did he really?
He
Oh.
actually did it. I was going to call it the grenade, but he alluded to it in a blog post when Hack 5 was joining Rev 3 and called it, "Tune into Hack 5. I hear it has something to do with a pineapple." Last minute, 11th hour, I go, "Oh, that sounds way better than the Wi-Fi grenade."
Yeah, yeah. Huh. Very nice.
Which is
All right.
interesting because grenade is the French word for. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hence the Louderbackian allusion.
I love J-Lo. I wonder what he's up to now.
J-Lo.
Jim Louderback. He loves being
Yeah,
called that.
I understand it.
He's a mover and a shaker in the conference scene these days, I think. All right, let's get rolling here. You guys ready to rock?
Oh, let's do a podcast. Yeah. I'm feeling chipper.
I'm going to give a Sark mark warning for you.
Oh, no. I calmed down around line 15.
Okay, good.
Reel it back in.
Here we go. This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, November 18th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Darren Kitchen is back alongside. How you doing, DK?
So happy to be here, Tom.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yo.
We missed you.
Yeah, we've got some good news. We've got some bad news. We've got some.
We got some things you can
Cleveland
use.
love.
Good news, bad news, and things you can use.
There you go. What's that
All
from?
coming up. And of course, Len Peralta is back as well. We missed you last week.
Yes,
When we had the eminently illustratable, or not last week, but 2 weeks ago. We had a like
A
Lego
yeah.
Dimensions story on a Friday.
I know. I feel so bad I couldn't do that.
Today we've given you fake data breaches to illustrate.
That's awesome. Well, no, I'm up for it. The last time I was here was at the end of October, which since then it's like the world is completely imploded and changed.
Yeah, Microsoft joined the Linux Foundation.
Yeah,
Right.
the Cubs won the World Series.
Windows.
Yeah, cats and dogs are now just openly taking naps with each other.
They're canoodling. I heard there was canoodling.
I mean, I've heard the reports. I haven't seen any verification though.
What it comes down to
episode about identifying fake news.
What it comes down to is that I've got to come back here to bring balance to DTNS. And that's
Oh,
what
I'm
it
so
is.
glad. I'm so glad that you're here to do that. We've got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. AT&T will announce details about its DirecTV Now internet TV service on Monday, November 28th in New York City. So a week from Monday. DirecTV has been doing we've got an announcement about an announcement about an announcement for a while. So November 28th, we finally get to the end of that trail. They're going to give us the details. Do you use any of the like PlayStation View or Sling TV, either one of you guys?
I can't find the time to enjoy media. This is it, Tom. This is the show I get to experience.
That is man.
This is an Act 5. But if I were to, I would probably pick up one of these
newfangled things. Yeah. Looks like we had a little pause on all of the videos here.
Hi. I'm here.
Yeah, but Len's here. So maybe it's just Darren then. Well, it's hard to tell if you're paused, Len, because
I should probably do something and move, right? Yeah, exactly.
So hopefully Darren unlocks. Well, we're hoping maybe we just need to score enough points to unlock Darren. Roger's here. He's waiting. Okay, so it's just Darren. We'll get him back. Roger's going to work on getting back. Let's start with some top stories. Apple has introduced the iPhone 6 Plus multi-touch repair program for models that have the so-called touch disease that results in a flickering screen, a gray bar over the top sometimes, generally unresponsive. Now, Apple's not calling it the touch disease. Apple's calling it the multi-touch repair program. They've reduced the repair fee, too. They're not doing it for free. If you have an iPhone 6 Plus, not an iPhone 6, an iPhone 6 Plus, not an iPhone 7 Plus, iPhone 6 Plus, it'll cost you $149 to fix the problem instead of, I think it's usually $300. If you've already paid for the repair, Apple will let you contact them and give you reimbursement for the difference between $149 and whatever you paid. iFixit, as well as several others, believe that it could be related to a design flaw in the touchscreen controller chips that caused the problem, but Apple maintains it only happens after stress on the device, such as multiple drops on hard surfaces.
Oh, so in other words, you're what do they call it? Holding it wrong, or by holding it wrong, I mean dropping it.
Okay, but seriously, like if I drop my phone on hard surfaces a lot, which many people do, I shouldn't be surprised if something like this happens. So that is not unreasonable to say, hey, we just think, people drop their phones. When they drop them a few times too many, it knocks this thing off. But I start to get skeptical when but why does it seem to happen to this model in particular?
Right, and previously when Apple gets called out for design flaws, it brings on innovation in ways of rubber bumpers. So this time I feel like Apple could actually introduce the smartphone equivalent of a toddler's sippy cup.
Oh, or a leash.
Ooh.
The new iLeash that'll stop it from hitting the ground when you drop it.
I don't know what form this is going to take, but I just know Johnny Ives needs to get on this because it's going to be hip in short order.
It's one single fiber machined from purest nylon.
We call it
the item. In statements following the vote to approve the merger of SolarCity and Tesla, CEO Elon Musk said that SolarCity's new roofing material should cost less than traditional rooftop shingles to make and install. He said in his best infomercial voice, you'd be crazy not to buy our solar roofs. The savings is expected because the solar shingles could be cheaper to ship because they weigh less than your typical shingle, and they're sturdier. They risk less breakage. Shingles would reportedly feature tempered glass made by Tesla, a new solar film from 3M, specifically designed for the project, as well as solar power technology jointly developed by Tesla, SolarCity, and Panasonic. So, new roof coming. You'd be crazy, Darren, not to make it SolarCity.
I don't know, Tom. Between the touch disease and the solar shingles, I'm not sure I want any of these.
These does sound like horrible things you'd find in a doctor's office. Well, that guy's got solar shingles. This guy's got the touch disease.
Yeah. No, what I'm sad about is because I'm just wondering, does this mean that your traditional blue monocrystalline solar panels are suddenly going to become like the equivalent of a Casio calculator watch or a flip phone?
Oh, yeah. No, you got to take a look at these if you haven't already.
I know I have, but I've already got 600 watts worth of the old stuff on my van, so I'm wondering how long until that's retro cool again.
Yeah, you're going to have to hang in there for a few years, my friend.
Right. I can't put shingles on the van roof. Anyway, yes, the technology is awesome, and I'm skeptical as always, but hopeful.
Yeah, I checked in with Big Jim. You've probably heard us mention him before. He works in logistics, and he likes to weigh in. He's the guy who does the Tech and Trade podcast, and he said he'd have to dig in to be sure, but on the face of it, this isn't an outlandish claim. He's like, yeah, they might be able to save enough money in the overall production and shipping of these to bring it down. They certainly are going to be a premium at the start, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems like the Apple version of a solar panel.
Nice. Nth Mike just said touch disease, solar shingles, the flu screen of death.
I love it.
All of it. The stuff you want to avoid. The Canadian CRTC and the US FCC have signed a memorandum of understanding to allow the two organizations to team up and fight robocalls. The two will share knowledge and expertise through training programs, staff exchanges, as well as informing each other of legal developments in their respective jurisdictions. Okay, I'm going to make myself really unpopular, Darren. I don't really get bothered by robocalls. I just don't answer them.
Wait, Tom, don't stop the podcast. I have an important announcement regarding your online search
Your
results.
home warranty is under
Press
review.
1 to connect to our SEO specialist.
Okay, I'm not going to say I've never picked up the phone and gotten a robocall, but then I just hang up. Like, yeah, I would hate this if it were happening 6 times a day, and I've heard some horror stories from people where that's happening, and I get it. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I need a do not call list if that's the case. That said, I'm not criticizing Canada and the US for teaming up on this. Sure, why not?
Yeah, I was actually just being asked about that this morning because I get a phone call from my home area code and I just don't pick it up because if it's because to save money, they obviously route through whatever your local exchange is. And so that's kind of like a dead giveaway that it's a robocall. I get 6 a day at least, and it's made my phone pretty much worthless. So,
all right, so
I'm signed up for the do not call lists.
And they're still getting you.
Yeah, so it's,
All right, so I'll back off.
Well, it's just frustrating because it's like email. Email's worthless to me now too because it's just like the signal of noise.
I find really I just FTP things directly to people.
I literally tell people to tweet me now because it's like anyway. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, it's a frustrating thing. I hope that they can figure out some good stuff to thwart it. And I think that interesting stuff actually comes out of DEF CON in this regard too. As far as like the social engineering village has a lot of fun with telemarketers in this regard. We'll leave it at that.
Keep your eyes out for that. We've got some good updates coming to the Windows 10 creators update builds. If you're on the fast track of the Insiders preview, build 14971 is arriving there for the Fast Ring. They call it Fast Ring Insiders. 3D version of Microsoft Paint. Codename Beihai has arrived. You can play around with that. PowerShell now replaces Command Prompt as the default in the File Explorer's file menu and the WinX menu. Also, if you right-click in blank space, you can change it back to the Command Prompt. They're not getting rid of the Command Prompt. So if you want to live in the style to which you've come accustomed, you can go back to that. Microsoft Edge got the ability to read undrm'd EPUB books, and an update to Get Office, which a lot of people call Office Hub, now helps you find and launch apps all in one place. It's not just the collection of links, although the links that were there are also still there. The Windows holographic shell's not in there yet, but they did add the Windows holographic first run app. It doesn't do a lot much yet, but it is a sign that they're starting to build the process of adding the holographic shell. I find, Darren, the most disturbing thing is the indication that command, that cmd.exe, might be getting deprecated here.
Well, all of this has happened before and all of it will happen again. Command.com is dead. Long live cmd.exe. Cmd.exe is dead. Long live PowerShell.exe. What I say is, as long as I can run tree, which is the best command of all, then bring it on. Except it does still sadden me in the same way that I'm saddened when I see Trumpet Windsock going by the wayside. Sure. I'm happy that there are certain mainstays in Windows that you can always rely on. CMD was one of them. At least it's being aliased to the new version of the prompt. And for the most part, a lot of the commands do transition over. But yeah, it means that I have to go back and redo a lot of USB rubber ducky payloads because they rely on opening CMD, and now they're going to have to open PowerShell, which is probably the way they should be anyway.
Yeah. Well, and correct me if I'm wrong. I might remember this. Bash is in PowerShell, right?
No, it's kind of. I haven't gotten it. I'm really upset because I'm like, anyway, neither here nor there. But problems with my own system. But I would actually, PowerShell is 10 years old. I wish 10 years ago, Microsoft, instead of introducing PowerShell, had just like adopted Bash, and this would be the default now, and then we'd all be rejoicing.
Well, that's what's going to happen, I think.
Yeah, well, it took 10 years for PowerShell to become the new CMD. How long is it going to take Bash to become the new PowerShell?
Bash is going to take 10 years to eat PowerShell. And then by then, Linux will have moved on to a different system. And people will go, man, Microsoft's still stuck on Bash.
At least unlike some operating systems, we're getting a built-in terminal emulator and a shell. So I'm just happy.
Clarifies our confusion. PowerShell has access to Bash, but also CMD does too. Right. CMD.exe.
There's very few mainstays in Windows, and so I'm always sad to see some of them go. The Start, CMD, the Run dialog has been there since Windows 95. X in the top right has been there since Windows 95. You know, I think the one that goes back to Windows 3.1 that's still there is in the top left corner of a window. When you have the icon for the actual program, you can double click on it to close the program. That's still a mainstay from Windows 3.1, where there used to be a minus sign there.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, that was the way you.
Yeah, that was the big deal with
in
Windows
fact,
95. They moved it from the left to the right.
Windows 286 with an add-on could do that too. I don't know if it was native.
I don't go back to 286, man. I'm an 8086.
That's where I got my teeth. According to Dan's Deals, not Dan Seals. Dan Seals is probably some kind of singer. dansdeals.com. Google has suspended more than 200 accounts from people who bought Google Pixel phones and had them shipped directly to a reseller in New Hampshire. The reseller has done this with several Google phones before in the past. It helps users take advantage of the fact that there's no sales tax in New Hampshire. So you buy it, you don't pay sales tax, it gets shipped to New Hampshire, he sells it, splits the profits with you. However, for the Pixel, Google requires purchasers either through the Google Store or Project Fi to agree that they are only going to buy the phone for personal use or as a gift. Google told Fortune that many of the accounts were created for the sole purpose of buying and reselling the phone commercially, and therefore it disabled the accounts. However, it has restored access to accounts it considers from genuine people. They're like, look, if you aren't just a business who is taking advantage of this, then we're going to restore your account. If you didn't just create an account that's done nothing but sell this phone, we're gonna restore your access. Otherwise, we're keeping the ban in place.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to them. They reserve the right to refuse service to anyone, like any other business. This is typical in e-commerce. You know, there's a lot of places, ourselves included, that will a lot of time block places like freight forwarders because it can cause all sorts of trouble.
Well, that's interesting, because I think as a regular consumer, you look at this and say, hey, wait a minute, I should have the right to resell the things I buy. It's the right of first use, right? I can sell anything I own. How can you stop me? But that's not exactly what's going on here. Google isn't saying you can't buy something and sell it yourself. What they object to is a commercial system that allows multiple items to be sold simply for commercial use. And is that close to right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the thing is, in this case, you haven't bought it. You can't be upset because they just declined the transaction. They just, declined the sale.
And what is the problem? I think you're in a unique position to sort of shed some light on this for people. What is the problem with a freight forwarder or somebody coming in and just buying up? I mean, don't you just want to sell as many widgets as you can?
Yeah, if we were launching, the new Hack 5 Field Kit on Monday, and then suddenly everybody, goes and buys it through a reseller just to, make a buck, I'd be upset, because then there's all the people who would actually want it not getting it because it's a limited amount of inventory. Which is why you should be refreshing the Hack Shop on Monday. Anyway, point is, things like that would upset me because I want the right people to have it. And at the same time, like freight forwarders, for example, what will end up happening there is, people, in various places in the globe where they can't traditionally get shipping from the United States will go through a freight forwarder. It ultimately will get refused at their border, and then it becomes our problem, even though it shouldn't be.
Right. You're not the one who bought it to ship to that country that you're not allowed to ship it to.
Yes.
But you're going to have to answer for it because it's your product getting shipped.
No, well, technically, once the package has been received, the transaction is complete, and you would think that you're off the hook, but not in the customer's mind.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
your fault that it got.
It's about customer support
customs.
a lot of times, and even in New Hampshire, where you're not crossing a national border, there could be situations where people are buying these things and maybe they're damaged or something, and then they complain to Google, and Google's like, well, hey, we didn't ship it to you, we shipped it to this other place. They may have damaged it. You got to take it up with them. But like you say, customers.
That's not the way that your customer thinks.
Yeah. All right. Finally, this is going to lead us right into our main discussion today. UK's 3 mobile service announced attackers have accessed a customer upgrade database using an employee login. So they probably phished it or socially engineered it. The Daily Telegraph has a source saying up to 6 million customer records could have been exposed. 3 has said the data accessed includes names, phone numbers, addresses, and dates of birth, added that it did not include financial information. So far, so familiar. You're like, what's so different about this and any other data breach that you've mentioned on DTNS? The attackers have been upgrading customer accounts with new phones.
Yeah.
So it's actually similar to the story we just ran here. The attackers weren't going after your personal information. They just wanted to hijack accounts, order cheap phones with an upgrade on the plan, have them shipped to the attacker, who then presumably would sell them because they're getting them at a subsidized price. National Crime Agency says 3 people have been arrested and the investigation is ongoing.
Yeah, see, it used to be that, if you wanted to steal a bunch of phones, you just, smash a few bricks through the Radio Shack window and just grab them from behind the register and off you go. And now it's so much more complicated and interesting.
Yeah, I almost said I like this story. I don't like this story at all.
No,
but it's an interesting story because it's not the typical, like, we access the database and now we're going to sell the information online, which happens all too often. It's a different use for a database. It just
tells us there's a lot of economic incentive to breaching data out of companies, and there's lots of ways that you can make money off of data breaches and the information that they provide. And this is a difficulty for all organizations because ultimately, you do have to trust certain individuals within your organization with the information to, be able to get their jobs done. Systems administrators notoriously end up having access to way more than is, typically necessary, but just to get their jobs done, they do, which is why penetration testers will always go after the administrators first. So this is an example of those people with access had their credentials stolen, and then it's a new novel way of having that data abused.
Yeah. Well, thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit and help us find these kinds of stories. Submit your own. Vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. All right. Darren found a couple of posts from Troy Hunt, a security researcher of great renown. One of them looking into a supposed data breach of GitHub accounts. Turns out this is another one where GitHub has not been breached, but there is a data leak, and I'll explain this. A company called GeekedIn promises to recruit developers. They took advantage of GitHub's policy that allows site scraping for research or archival purposes, or at least that's the best explanation for how this happened. They definitely got a whole treasure trove of publicly available information, but information that isn't aggregated. And if they're doing this for a commercial purpose, it would violate GitHub policy. So if that's what they did, they would have violated policy. Whatever they did, however they got the information, it leaked out from a MongoDB with no password and is now being bandied about as a GitHub data breach. Public data from GitHub had been aggregated, including email address, location, name, skills, username, years of pro experience. Now, there are 8.2 million unique email addresses in this leak. 7.1 million of them are dummy addresses. They end in .xyxp.wzf because those are accounts at GitHub that didn't have public-facing email addresses. So, Darren, this brings up the question of when is a breach a breach? This is definitely not a breach of GitHub, but it's going to make GitHub look bad if people see that this breach is out here, and it's not an 8.2 million email address database anyway. It's a couple million.
Right. And here's the thing about this is only one source. So this information only came from GitHub, which this is why it can potentially hurt GitHub, because people are going to say, hey, I've got the latest GitHub breach, right? And it's like GitHub wasn't breached. You just took the information off of publicly accessible pages. What's interesting in this case with what Troy Hunt typically does is he operates this awesome site called haveibeenpwned.com, where you can type in your email address and see if you've been listed in any of these data breaches. What he doesn't do is actually give you the breached information. He just tells you what the exposure is. So whether it was your email address and your name and what other kinds of information were exposed. What he's taking as a different approach in this regard is he's actually providing you, if you signed up for his notification service, which is where he actually authenticates your email address, he will allow you to see what data was actually breached in your instance if you were part of this. I went ahead and did this because I'm part of this data breach because I have a GitHub account, and oh no, they scraped off GitHub my username and my first and last name and my email address. But for other people, it had also, other information about, their programming abilities and things of that nature. It's really interesting in this regard because it brings up the question of like, well, what is, a breach, and if it's just public information, does that count as a breach? However, I would say in this case, we're only talking about one source. If I were to just imagine, what if some, nefarious entity used Maltego-like tools to go ahead and crawl the internet and put together a phone book that didn't only have your name and phone number, but also your address and every piece of public record about you held by states and counties, and then also held all of the public information from all of your social media sources, everything that's still publicly available. But what if that was then indexed, and then you could just search anybody and then see basically everything that they've ever done publicly in life or online? Some would say, hey, that's a data breach because you've compiled the information in such a way. So yeah, it's I don't know, it brings up some really interesting questions.
Yeah, because my initial feeling on this is, if this is public information, then I should be aware it's out there. And perhaps if someone collected all of our public information, it would raise awareness for us about how much information is out there. But then there's that other side of it, which is like, yeah, it's one thing to have information public. It's another thing to have it all conveniently aggregated so that you can draw more conclusions about someone than you ever could if it was just, public in the way it's public. It's the difference between someone seeing your license plate when you drive down the street and someone going up to your car and taking a picture of it and then keeping it on file and saying, I know your license plate number now, right? That creeps people out. And it's a whole different conversation about that. So in some ways, Geeked In definitely took advantage of GitHub's policy in a way that shouldn't. So it shouldn't be allowed to do this. If they didn't use GitHub to aggregate this public information, if let's say they did it by hand, which sounds probably impossible, but just for the sake of argument, let's say they did, then, well, okay, that's publicly available information that you should put up there, and you should be aware of that. But man, I wish Geeked In would have protected it a little better than putting it in a MongoDB with no password.
Right. And it just calls up the question of like, is this a breach? Do you call it a breach? Because by saying data breach, there's certain implications that it has that can smear the reputation of the entity. And in this case, GitHub's reputation doesn't need to be smeared because it wasn't actually anything quote unquote private. And here's the thing, like there's, for instance, it's kind of public that like, okay, so like all of these data breaches have happened, and there's sites like haveibeenpwned.com that will list those. And I can, for instance, type in your email address, Tom, and I can see that you have been exposed in the Patreon data breach and in the Tumblr data breach. But I can't actually see what that information is. That's what a responsible site like haveibeenpwned.com actually does. That's not to say that there aren't irresponsible sites out there where, for a fee, of course, you can unauthenticatedly obtain the hashes or even plain text of those breaches. And that's like, okay, well, that was public knowledge, but that doesn't mean that it's responsible to spread that, which is why there's an entire economy of selling and trading these data breaches.
Well, and some people, because there is an economy of that, want to build a name for themselves and purport to have breach files that aren't even breach files. That's another post from Troy Hunt about him investigating a breach of a German soccer site, dfb.de. He said he couldn't verify the breach. He found emails in the breach, emailed some of those folks, and they said, no, I don't remember ever having an account there. He found people who said, yeah, I definitely had an account at DFB. I'll help you out, Troy. This is the email address I used. He couldn't find it in the so-called breach. So he said, look, this is a problem. People are out there saying there are breaches. Some outlets, going back to Tuesday's fake news, will just pick up with that and run it. Like, oh, I heard there's a Twitter breach. And it turns out that it's not verified. So if you hear of a breach, it's bad enough to think, uh-oh, my data got compromised again. What do I need to do? How do you make sure you're hearing about an actual breach?
Exactly. It's really difficult considering the fact that journalists don't typically have the tools to verify this sort of information, which is why it's good that there are certain security researchers out there actually doing the legwork to make sure that this is legit, because it's just like any other accusation. Just being accused can smear your reputation. I mean, I heard that Julian Assange was a pedophile, right? And then therefore pick it up and roll with it. There's certain reasons why any entity might want to do that. If I had a competitor, I could say, oh, my competitors had a data breach, shop with us because we haven't, or whatever have you. I mean, you can see where you can go with that. And then on top of that, there's an entire economic incentive within the underground to create names for themselves as saying, hey, we have the most, the biggest library of data breaches. Come and get them from us. We'll sell you those and maybe even make a few bucks off of a fake one, because it's very difficult to verify. A fake breach looks just like a real breach until you actually go ahead and go through the process of authenticating it, which is why, certain researchers put out things like canary accounts, where you can tell like, oh, okay, well, I have a fake account at every website, and when it gets breached, I'll be able to look up this particular username and password, or the password hash, and see if it exists in there. And if it does, you can say, oh, well, this probably is legit. And if it isn't, well, hey.
So wait until the company itself, in this case, DFB.de, Beatmaster tells me in the chat room, is the Deutsche Fußballbund. It's the German Football Association. They're going to make an announcement if they got breached eventually. Maybe they'll do it faster or slower, but
eventually.
They will definitely let folks know. And if you're waiting for them to like, well, wait a minute, maybe they're just being slow about it. Wait for a trusted third party, like a Troy Hunt or another security researcher to say, yeah, I've vetted this. I've looked through. It seems verified before you say, okay, I'm certain that that's a breach.
Yeah, that's really good practical advice, because a lot of times companies will drag their feet because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that there's been a breach, and maybe they'll like acknowledge it in some sort of vague way, and then not actually allude to the actual scope of it, LinkedIn. And so that's so don't wait just for, if you want to be proactive, definitely sign up for a service like Troy Hunt's haveitbeenpwned.com. He's a good friend of mine, and he runs a responsible service. There are other services like that where you can sign up to be notified when your email address appears in a breach, and that way you can be you can be a little proactive about it, and then log into your account and disable it or change the password, whatever have you, to just stay ahead of the curve there.
Yeah, so let's go from that. That's kind of good step one of, before a data breach even happens, what's the best practices to make sure that I minimize any damage if somebody's data does get breached? I don't want to have to not use any services on the internet. I want to continue to use things like LinkedIn, et cetera, perhaps. What do I do? That's one thing, is sign up for something like haveitbeenpwned.com. We'll have the link in the show notes. I would say don't replicate your passwords. I mean, that's just good advice anyway, but definitely do not use the same password in multiple locations. That way, if somebody does get your password out of one database, they can't use it on your accounts in other databases. Use two-factor authentication if it's available. Make sure you make it hard that if somebody did somehow get your password and username, it won't be easy for them to get into the account. Anything else, Darren?
Yeah, I would say, unfortunately, we don't live in a world where it's disclosed on web services what sort of encryption technologies they use on the back end to protect your information, whether it's something weak like SHA-1 or MD5, or it's something newer like bcrypt. It's unfortunate that you don't know when you sign up for a service if it's going to be protected at all. So you have to go into signing up for a service assuming that the eventual data breach will happen, and when it does, it could be worst case that it's a really weak algorithm protecting your password, which is why what you want to do is not be the low-hanging fruit. The simple things to crack are the short 7-8 character passwords, and the hard stuff to crack are those 16, 20 something character passwords. So if you're already currently using a 10-character password that you can already remember, you can turn that into a 20-character password right now by just typing it in twice.
Yeah, and granted, some cracking methods will then start doubling passwords to look for that sort of thing, but it's better than having just the 10-character password.
Right.
Right?
You
It's
put an
always an
exclamation point in between the two, or something like that. I'm just saying,
yeah.
a long password is going to make you exponentially harder to crack, and therefore you're not the low-hanging fruit. So when when the crackers throw the data breach file into Hashcat or whatever trendy cracking service of the day is, and say crack them all, the first ones that are going to get spit out are the really easy ones, and you don't want to be one of the easy ones.
Don't be one of the easy ones, folks. And I know Darren has concerns about using password managers, but certainly using a password manager is better than using the same password everywhere. And there's things like KeepPass if you want to keep control of that sort of thing.
I use the password manager. It's just in my noggin. That's all.
I know.
But it's susceptible to the rubber hose problem. So yeah, that's always.
All right, let's finish up with a pick of the day from Mox, M-A-W-C-S. It's short for his actual name. I don't know if it goes by M-A-W-C-S or Mox, though. I like Mox. I'm going to tell you Mox until you tell me otherwise. Since the recent call for VPNs, remember a while back we talked about virtual private networks. We had a listener saying, hey, what's the best one? And we're like, there isn't a best one, but we've gotten a lot of people telling us the ones that they enjoy. And Mox wanted to chime in for PIA at privateinternetaccess.com. Lots of servers, even international servers, no logging. Great encryption, lots of devices on a single plan, integrates with his router, and more. He said really the only downside is it's based in the USA, so some people won't want to use it because they're worried about surveillance or that sort of thing. He's also been using meet.jit.si as an alternative to Hangouts and Skype.
Ooh, Jitsi is so good.
It's actually easier to use than both Hangouts and Skype as long as you're using Chrome or Firefox, and it's free and open source.
Yeah, and you can roll your own server, and we did just that on a Hack 5 episode last year, and it's a really cool package. It uses some awesome, new HTML, WebM, all the cool, trendy codecs and all that good stuff, and it's really something worth checking out. We ran a server for a while here at Hack 5. It was a lot of fun.
Send your picks to us, folks. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. And you can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. All right, before we get to Len, Darren, what's been going on at Hack 5? What do you got to tell folks about? I seem to remember earlier in the show you were saying some big announcement is coming on Monday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Hack 5 Field Kit has been, much sought after for quite a while. There's the little version and the big version. And so these are just chock full of like all the tools in one place. And to accompany some of our best, come Monday, we will be launching the Hack 5 Field Kit book, the Pocket Guide of the Essentials, which covers all the ins and outs of getting started with the USB rubber ducky or the Wi-Fi pineapple or the land turtle, the tools that you've seen on shows like Mr. Robot and in video games, as I've just found out, like Watch Dogs 2. So that's pretty cool. Wi-Fi pineapple's all over that video game. I'm honored and tickled. Otherwise, hack5.org, the place to check out awesome shows like Tech Thing and Hack 5 and ThreatWire. This week, Shannon has an awesome review of the NES Classic, as well as 375 gigabyte Raspberry Pi servers. It's, I don't know, just cool stuff. And then Hack 5, we're covering ways to exfiltrate data using USB rubber duckies. That's exfiltrating data. It's like involuntary backups. Back up your data, folks.
Yeah, or that'll be backed up for you. Thank you, hak5.org. Check all that stuff out. Len Peralta, poor guy, he's missing his breeches.
He is missing his breeches. This is actually my first sort of PSA for DTNS, which is basically saying beware the breach. You talked about some great ways of keeping your password safe, and those are kind of outlined here, including TFA and doubling your characters, which I thought was a really good idea. Also, wear pants and other protective clothing, which is really important, which obviously this guy didn't do. So yes, it's a friendly message from your friends over at DTNS, and you can get this print right now at my online store. And what's kind of cool about it is that for those looking at the video, it says my password is password. It's someone who's like not really doing anything to protect themselves. If you get the digital version, which you can get right now, the digital version is blank and lets you write your password right there. So it's a little bit different than the actual physical version. The physical version says my password is password. The digital version lets you write your own password in. So
print it up.
Yeah.
You could actually use this if you're in a place that puts the Wi-Fi password up on the wall.
Yes. Yes, that's the idea. You can print it out. You can actually, if you have a laminator, you can laminate it and then just sort of write stuff on there. So it's kind of a fun little interactive thing, plus a nice little PSA for remembering how to protect yourself and beware of the breach. So
check it out.
Yeah, go check it out, as well as all the other stuff in my store. Of course, we're coming on, got doing some cards, doing custom-drawn holiday cards. Got the DTNS super fan poster as well. Go to lenperaltastore.com. Check it all out.
Thanks to everybody who supports the show, like Len with his art there, like our new patrons, including Brandon Spickard and Michael Jones. Huge thanks to Brian Chastain and Michael Honey Arsament. And I apologize, Michael, if I didn't pronounce that last name right. Those two folks just increased their support. We thank every single person who is continuing to support us. Thanks for hanging in there with us. You guys are the best. Patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back on Monday with Veronica Belmont. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
That was a tight show. Good work. What should we call it?
Showbot.
Let's not call it Showbot.
No, let's not call it Showbot. Let's see what they got going on here. Oh, life's a breach.
Yeah, I like it.
That's a good one.
Life's a breach, and then you fly.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. We hear you now, Roger. Good. Hey, Roger. I heard you for a second. I really did.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you again.
All right.
Yes. That is a Roger.
All right. Titles.
Life's a breach is pretty good. Yeah.
I fixed, you pay. I think we've used that before. Something like
Life's a breach?
No, I fix it, you pay.
Yeah, I feel like Life's a breach might have been used before too, possibly.
Solar shingles. Double your password, double your fun.
That's
solar shingle.
Tom, no, I got to.
Well, yeah, Tom's right though. The crackers are just going to, try it twice. So
yeah,
put a couple characters in between.
Yeah. Do a little mitigation.
Touch disease and solar shingles. That seems kind of odd. Breach blanket bingo.
Oh, that's better. Breach
that's a good one.
Bingo. Yeah.
We haven't used that. That one I know we haven't.
Pretty sure I haven't. Yeah.
Innovation rubber bumpers. There's crazy Elon's practically giving it all.
Crazy Elon's. We're practically giving them away.
The roof for power.
Okay. Good effort.
Command shell problems. Mo shells, mo problems.
I'm with the spirit of that one. It just.
There's more than one way to steal a phone. Fishing.
Look, ICU has a great pedigree of amazing titles, so not down on him.
He's printing it out right now. It's hilarious.
I am going to go with that. Yeah.
Nice.
Let's call it, my password is EEF5204E6A.
I like that you put it in to the printed, like you didn't write it on there. You just printed it right in.
Oh, no, I totally
awesome.
Photoshop and, Arial bold. Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Len. This is
no problem.
Great. I love
the
memory.
Darren, someone's looking at that right now going, wait, that is my password.
Well, if you've been watching Hack 5 for a while, EEF5204D6A. and I can't tell you why. So we need to just set up like some sort of like Python server or something, or some IPP protocol where Len's art can go directly to my printer. I want to set up the subscription service where I just get in on the Patreon and it just starts coming out of the printer.
Yeah, that'd be actually cool to do.
I come to the office and I see like, ooh, what's on the tray? You know,
that's pretty cool.
Life's a Breach is winning.
I like that one. And by the way, on the screen is Dark Redeemer's
nice.
Superfan poster.
Oh, that's his
face?
Yeah,
the one he ordered.
Yeah, that's his personalized one. So
that's great.
You can get drawn in right into it.
That's fantastic.
I like how Justin's tongue is stuck out that way.
Who's the upside down one at the top?
That's Peter.
Nice.
Well, because he's from Australia.
Because he's from Australia, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Fun stuff.
Good work. Yeah, I may not respect the vote here. The Electoral College is voting for Breach Blanket Bingo. Even though Life's a Breach is winning the popular vote.
Oh man, Ian just called me out that I invented the fax machine. You're right. It's kind of
like a protocol to send something.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if there was a way.
You're right.
His art could just show up on my print tray. All right.
That's good paper stock too.
Yeah.
Well, okay, actually, so the only way to do faxes over the internet is with some kind of goofy thing like eFax.
I was about to say, no, we were talking about like mainstays of Windows technology like CMD. I think WinFax is still in Windows 10.
Or WinFax, right. But you still have to use the phone system, right?
Yeah. I think
so
WinFax.
Why hasn't somebody come up with a faxing system? I mean,
that would be
eFax.
Are you about to invent PDF attached email?
No, something that would print. Like, why can't I set up my printer to say
you can? It's called IPP, Internet Printing Protocol.
Yeah, you're right. But nobody uses it. That's why we forget.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is if there was a better protocol than IPP, which is pretty terrible.
It's not that we are saying there isn't one.
Right.
We want a better one.
I want a cryptographically sound one that will traverse NAT that I can then authenticate different people to, so that I can be part of the Peralta list. So that when there's new art,
you're giving me more stuff to do though. I got to figure out what I need is somebody to come in and figure that all out.
But your end could be done in software.
If Len could hover his finger over a giant print button that he knows when he presses print, it's going to make 100,000 printers all over the world.
Yeah, I love it. I'm all for automation.
Yeah,
exactly. For automation.
Like people go to your store and they sign up. Maybe they pay a little money. They sign up and they get added to the print button.
I think there is a way to do subscriptions through Shopify.
But direct to printers?
I don't know about direct to printer.
I mean, this is problematic in so many regards.
Yeah, it is.
If there's no paper in it, if there's no ink in it.
Yeah.
I got to get my school paper.
I mean, honestly, it would
I'm out of ink because Len used it all.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like wait a second. Someone's buying. Oh, I think someone just bought my my digital comic. Thank you so much.
Look at that, real-time satisfaction.
Yes, that is. You can download that right now and you can read it. Yes. Love it. Thank you so much, Michael. Oh, that's Nth Mike. Thank you so much.
Oh, hey, look at that. He's in chat. Nth Mike buys heel cut number 1.
Yeah, I know. Pretty awesome. I got to get ready. I'm going to go see my son in a play tonight.
Oh, what's the play?
High Fidelity.
Ooh.
He's the lead. He's singing it. I've never heard him sing before, so it should be an interesting night.
High Fidelity. Is it? It's not based on the
John Cusack film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's John Cusack.
Yeah. Should be interesting. I've never heard him sing. So
he's gonna be Jack Black.
I don't know.
I don't know what his part is.
Well, he is. No, I don't know. I don't know anything. He's never said. All he told us is that it's kind of sweary, Mom and Dad. So I'm like, hey,
okay, I'm
sorry.
Like when I showed my first book that I ever wrote to my dad, And he read it. He's like, I really liked it. I don't know why you had to swear so much.
Yeah, it was so funny. He's in an improv troupe too, and improv troupe, and he and someone knew that his parents were in the audience, and so they were giving him all these kind of like risque things to improv, and he's like, I'm sorry, Mom."
Of course, they just want to embarrass the crap out of him, huh?
It's very funny. All right.
Well,
Gotta
enjoy
go.
High Fidelity and tell
Thank
you
you.
to break a leg.
Yes, thank you. We'll see how it goes. And everybody have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Likewise.
Yeah.
My pro tip for everybody here in America is if you're going to hurl anything at your family members, make sure it's cranberry, because that shows you still care for them.
Yeah, it's the way you show you care.
It's sweet. It's sweet.
Inevitable
It won't-
Thanksgiving argument.
Yeah, it'll be a great Thanksgiving for everybody here in the United States. All right.
I'm sure of it.
Tasty.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Len.
Bye.
Hey, Darren.
Yes.
So I got you down for Sunday, December 11th for the 9 a.m. DTNS predictions results show.
Yes, I can do that because it's in the morning.
Got it. Cool.
I'm looking forward.
Have you looked back at your predictions?
Yeah, and I was just too far ahead of the curve. You know. I was
Yeah,
just like-
that's my problem. Like, and I don't mean to give myself like I'm always right, just too far ahead. Like, but I'm always predicting things that are like, oh well, yeah, of course that wasn't going to happen this year. If it is,
I don't want to have to say, yeah, my prediction is still last year's. Can like, do I still like when it happens? You know, in 2017 or 2018, that there's a lawsuit over intellectual property being used in VR. You know, somebody recreating It's a Small World and Disney having a problem with that. Then do I then win it then?
I mean, yes, ish,
Ish.
but you
then-
don't get to gloat about it on the results show. That's the problem.
So actually, the further ahead that you can predict it, the better, because then I can be like, I predicted that way back in.
Someday cars will fly.
So I should be predicting the Cylons.
Although I say that, and then I go back and I look at my old predictions from like Buzz Out Loud days.
Yeah.
Still aren't that accurate, honestly.
No, it's beautiful though, because it shows kind of the hopes and dreams of the time. Yeah.
Neither HD DVD nor Blu-ray will it win.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Which
one
is-
can
I mean,
dream.
that's one of those things where like, well, Blu-ray certainly isn't as popular as DVD was at its height,
Mhm.
but it didn't die. But streaming video is definitely more popular. So yeah.
Yeah, it's still problematic. I want offline. I want digital delivery, but I want offline. You know.
You want to be able to store it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like Amazon Prime, I can.
Nope. No,
Yeah.
you can't save it.
Yeah.
You can
Not
save
on a
it,
Windows
but you-
box.
Huh?
Not on a Windows box.
Oh, maybe not on
See,
Windows.
the problem I
On
have-
Android, you can though.
Yeah, on Android. See, on the closed platforms, you can. Where
Android
DRM
ain't no closed platform.
Windows.
How is Android more closed than Windows?
There's
Windows
no
actually-
DRM up in there.
Did
That's
Windows
the-
change it? Because not Windows, Amazon, because they used to be
Yeah,
able
you
to
used to
save it.
unbox. You would
Yeah,
I
you
know
download.
what
can
you're
s-
saying though. You're talking about DRM. Yeah.
Yeah, you would download Amazon Unbox, and you could like download a encrypted version of the movie.
Yeah.
So the problem that I have is I'm like living in the
You wanna-
90s again, where I've got a T1 at the office and I have crap for bandwidth at home. So I want to download the movie where I have the fast internet, and then when I go home tonight, I want to be able to watch it on my big screen. I
There's
don't
no
wanna-
reason Amazon couldn't do that on Windows. I don't know why they don't.
Well, you look at like Google Play is the same way. Google Play, you can download the movie, you can cache it on Android and on Chrome OS, but not on Chrome the browser.
Yeah.
There's no technical reason here other than like the studios don't want them to do it. They're like, oh no,
No, and
Windows,
it's not even DRM. Like it's not like Windows don't support DRM.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And who's gonna copy it anyway?
I know, dude.
We all
but
just
that-
want to stream things. We don't really want to own things anymore.
Well,
I know there's
just
plenty
not. Anyway.
But yeah. Most people though, the market pressure is not for like I want to build a server of all the movies. People want Netflix.
Mm-hmm. I
Uh-oh.
want.
Dear podcast provider, to improve your experience with podcasts, we've put together a few tips and reminders. Oh, okay. This is just the iTunes winter. Like if you want to submit something for promotion on the iTunes store. Got it. I was like, uh-oh,
Is that
what are they
this-
changing?
Is that still a thing? Is iTunes still a? big
It's still
thing.
pretty popular. Yeah.
Really? I haven't looked at stats on Hack5 in like 5 years.
I mean,
so
it used to be like 98%. It's not up there anymore, but it's still the dominant one.
Okay, cool. So people are still installing the iTunes.
Well, it's that plus the podcast app on iOS.
Got it. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really surprised that Google never did a first-party podcast aggregator thing.
Well, Google
bought
Play Music.
FeedBurner.
Google Play Music does first-party podcast aggregation, but nobody remembers
Nobody
that.
uses that. That's
Yeah,
I
until it
wouldn't
stopped
really
working
consider
this
those
week, and one guy was like, "Hey, why aren't you in Google Play Music?" I'm like,
Yeah,
"I don't
they're
know."
buried in there. They're not even like, they're like, oh, they pop up randomly because our algorithm thought you might like this. No, I'm talking about like a podcast listing. You
Like
know, I'm
something
talking about
dedicated to
first party from like Android Froyo, you know,
Right.
like a podcast app built in. And you would think
Yeah,
that they
why
would have
not
done
take
it.
what they built for Google Play Music and just create a lightweight app for people who just like, no, I just want the podcast part.
Oh, are you implying that the Google Play Music is lightweight? Because that beast. Anyway.
No, that was my point. It was like build a lightweight app.
Lightweight. Okay.
Just
Yes.
for podcast. So I
Yeah.
don't have to get the beast that is Google Play Music.
Oh, it's so terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they bought FeedBurner. Why didn't they turn that into something?
Oh, I know, right? That's just Google's way.
No, but it's like it's like buying GeoCities and then just leaving it on a 486 in the closet.
Yeah, Yahoo had the sense. I don't know.
Yeah, the sense.
They had the chutzpah to shut GeoCities down, which I also thought was dumb. Like, why not just freeze it? Hand it over to archive.org.
Well, the archive.org ended up getting a copy.
Some of it, but not all of it.
No, they don't have my awesome text file. Actually,
no, mine either.
My awesome text files. Textfiles.com, org.net.
My tripod site is on archive.org. Good luck finding it, because I'm not telling you where it is. But my GeoCities site is long gone.
Aww.
I had two GeoCities sites. I had one for Boiling Point, and then I had one that was about returning the United States to England because we had illegally separated. It was like making fun of these like revolutionary sites.
Oh, Tom, trolling since '95. The original troll.
There was the American Monarchy site or something. I can't remember anymore.
See, my two GeoCities was just because you only got 2 megs, so I needed a second one to hot link images from.
Oh, right. Yeah.
2 megabytes. Wow.
I remember, well, that was the whole reason I got Ace Detect, was because Concentric gave me 5 megabytes of space for my website. AT&T didn't give me any. WorldNet. Screw that. All right.
Hey, you want to cut the streams?
Yeah, I'm actually like right at the point where I'll do that. I just need to get this link. That's usually what I do is I wait until everything is uploaded.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
And then I publish, and I think.
Well, in that case, I will read you an excerpt from my latest book, Chapter 9.
This excerpt is copyrighthack5.org.
Actually, let's skip to chapter 10, the ducking workflow. I didn't take it seriously, obviously.
I don't know. It tells me what it is. You were talking about rubber ducky at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm sorry, though. It just finally loaded. Everything's published.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to give them a line?
No. I mean, it's yeah. Anyway, this is actually kind of boring educational stuff.
Read one line.
All right, the ducking workflow. Whether you're auditing an ATM esoteric cash register system, an electronic safe specialized kiosk, or an ordinary Windows PC, the workflow will be the same. And it goes on to cover pre-engagement interactions, reconnaissance, targeting, research, writing payloads, encoding, testing, and optimizing them.
You just got somebody really excited. I'm not even joking about that. So check that out, hack5.org on Monday. We'll see you then.